Hello, this is one of my MIT Practicum blogs, which discusses a problem that I have encountered and how I dealt with it. I had a class of some very intelligent seventh graders, and I was teaching them English literature. And there was a few different ways that I tried to keep them engaged. And today I'm going to go over probably the most dynamic way that I found. Here's my lesson plan for this day. What we're doing is studying horror as a genre, and I picked Coraline, which is a great book meant for the students about this age, and it also had a movie to go along with it, and an audiobook. And so I tried to incorporate all of these. It wasn't in an international school, so I think that it helped when students were reading along with the audiobook at some times, and then other times they were to just read straight from the book. So I think it helped the ones that were struggling a little bit in English to be able to help get up to speed. So that's one of the aspects that I used technology, but just in the form of an MP3 as they followed along. My goal was to teach them vocabulary, to teach them abstract ideas about the genre of horror, and to keep them engaged and have fun. So to do this, what I ended up doing was that we're going to do in-class readings, and then I had access to a smart board at the time, and so I used it mainly just for the projector. But I came up with a game, and so each student had four cards: A, B, C, and D. So it was multiple choice, and I would stop the recording at a certain time, and then I would flash on the screen a question, and then I would count to three, and everybody would have to put up one of their cards at the same time. So this kept the students from looking at what everybody else was choosing. So I called it the interruption game, and here's just what I just described. And then homework for the day was to write 250 words about how Coraline fits into into the elements of horror. So it was a good exercise. It involved a basic core learning such as vocabulary, and it also involved higher level thinking processes where the students had to pick out elements from the book and be able to discuss them as they fit into a more abstract theme of horror. So I'd like to give you an example of how this worked. Okay, so we'll see. You see here is I had a bunch of the book written down here. So this is a way that I could be at my computer, and this was on a second computer, of course, not the one that was showing the questions. And so I could follow along, and then right here was my cue. So I would listen for this, and then when I got to that, I would stop, and then I would flash this question on the screen, and then I would count to three, and then the students would have to raise up one of their cards, A, B, C, or D. And the answer to this was B or D, which would be on a separate slide on the PowerPoint. And so that is how I handled it. And and like here's the second. This one only had three choices, and this was a good one too because I reposted what something that was just discussed in a book that brings up the word tetanus. Now, tetanus for a native speaker is quite easy, but for students who aren't native speakers, it's a word that they may not have encountered yet, and so it relied on them to try to figure out what tetanus was just from the context of the book, which is also a higher level thinking process. in terms of trying to get them to figure out what the word means, not just giving them the definition. So you can go through, I'll go through here and show you some more of my questions so you can see that it did cover quite a gamut. So here, this Coraline was too close to stop, and she felt that the other mother's cold arms enfold her. So she, in this book, she had two mothers, one in kind of a different universe. And so it talks about this instance in the story, and then the question is that what element of horror does this fit into? So this gets into the students having to think about how to tie this instance into which element of horror that we studied. So you can see it was a really good process, and the students loved it. They loved the game, and they had a great time. So it was a really good example of how to keep students engaged and how to engage them on different levels of learning, from lower thought processes and higher ordered learning. So it was a really good way to use technology, and I am proud to say it is before I went to Fort Hays, and so this is something that I just came up with even before I had my excellent Fort Hays training.